Well, this young lady we're bringing on has both,
I love
and
it.
she works for a great organization or business called BET, as many of us
Awesome.
know. And she's been doing it for a little while, and she actually has another side gig that we'll talk about.
Okay.
But yeah, she's going to enlighten us about many things. But well, you're correct, sir. If you don't have marketing, if you don't have writing, you
You
have
are
nothing.
done.
You are
So and
done.
she has everything. This is good.
She has everything. She's
That'll be
a
the
one-stop
short
shop.
intro. Our next guest has everything.
Right, that's it. We're done. Hey, you guys, welcome to another episode of Making It. And I'm here with a secret friend of mine that everyone knows, Mr.
Alvin Chia. Your setup was so good, I didn't know if you were talking about somebody else. I'm like, I'm a secret. I didn't know.
Secret friend that everybody knows. Hey, Alvin,
Yes.
what do you know about marketing?
I know a little bit about it. I know in business, if you don't have it, you are done.
Yes, yes. And what do you know about writing?
I know a little bit about it. I know in show business, if you don't have good writers, you are
You are
done.
done. Well, this young lady we're bringing on has both,
I love
and
it.
she works for a great organization or business called BET, as many of us
Awesome.
know. And she's been doing it for a little while, and she actually has another side gig that we'll talk about.
Okay.
But yeah, she's going to enlighten us about many things. But well, you're correct, sir. If you don't have marketing, if you don't have writing, you have
are
nothing.
done.
You
So
are
and
done.
she has everything. This is good.
She has everything. She's
That'll be
a
the
one-stop
short
shop.
intro. Our next guest has everything.
Right, that's it. We're done. And her name is Miss Fabienne Roc.
Fabienne, welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited you're here today.
So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So your name is very unusual. I'm used to an unusual name. So we use Fabienne. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that French?
It is French. My parents were born in Haiti. So.
I was gonna say
Okay,
that
cool.
had a strong Haitian thing to it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I've been to Haiti. I was in Haiti in '86.
Oh,
which
wow.
I probably just told my age, right? You probably weren't even born or something.
That's beautiful. And that actually portends because already as we pre-introed you, we already saw that you had a couple of different crowns. You have marketing expertise and you have writing expertise, and that hustle speaks to heritage from overseas.
Yeah.
Because I know all about that heritage because I got West Indian in me.
Okay. What island?
My mom is Guyanese.
Oh,
My mom
okay.
is Guyanese, yes. So at Christmas and all the curries and all the rotis and all the pepper pots and yes. Absolutely.
I'm just African American, but I buy into all of that. All of that. You just said all of that.
Listen, the diaspora. So
yes, absolutely.
So today we wanted to take time to talk to you, Fabienne, about what you do. So if you could give us just a brief idea of what you've done in your short career, because I know you're younger than Alvin and myself. We'll leave it at that. And that what you're doing currently for BET.
Mm-hmm. So like you said, I have a lot of hats, but so specifically for BET, I am a senior writer producer for our brand creative department, which means we do all the promotions for any shows, award shows, TV, film, on air on BET and on BET Plus, our streaming service.
Okay.
So, and leading up to that, I've been an event manager, I've been a branding manager, I've been a marketing manager, and I've also worked on a few sets of some shows as well. So my the journey to where I'm at now isn't as traditional as normal.
Never is. It never
right,
is.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like some people are very like textbook, like they go to film
right.
and they
yeah.
So I didn't necessarily have that journey, but I think what's unique about my story is that it gives me this unique perspective, and it allows me to kind of like tap into different sides or previous jobs that I've had to like kind of give myself a unique perspective when I am writing.
So you have
Well,
three phones in your house. I'm sorry, Kenan. I'm just so
that,
excited about this. If you have three phones in your house, you get a marketing call, you get a writing call, and you get a third thing. Which one are you grabbing first?
Oh man, I think I'm grabbing the writing call right now,
Okay.
which is funny. And the third thing I do, I am also a DJ, so
yeah, I was going to
Hey.
get to that.
yeah,
Which is actually another side. But you know, I mean, you spoke to a good point that nowadays I don't think there is a straight path to anything anymore, because the opportunities are getting bigger, wider, and broader. And I think, you know, as long as you know what you know and whatever way you obtained it, I think that's what it speaks to. Because I took a similar path to you, where I kind of did a lot of things because I had to, and it helped me to build to the point where I can do a lot of things for people, and I can be on a lot of sets, or I can be a lot of places, and you can't tell me that you can't do it because I did it.
Right.
And I think that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Especially now where things are not very linear, you know?
Yes.
And so for me, what I love that I have this marketing background, because it allows me to think about like who our audience really is, and if they're receptive of, you know, things. The industry has changed, like TV is completely different. Everything is moving towards streaming, and being able to identify the audience and speak to them is like super key. And when you go to school and you're specifically going to school for writing or journalism, you're not necessarily taught that part. You know, it's like you're taught structure and like how to write, but you're not necessarily given that well-rounded, like, you know, is this going to resonate with your audience? So
does the writing appeal to you because it is your creation, your baby, this is what I want to see, versus marketing that is kind of like, I'm going to make whatever you come up with amazing or seem amazing?
That's a good question. I think actually, at least in my case, my writing isn't necessarily always my baby.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of parallel in the sense of, you know, sometimes the business need is more important than what I think it should be, you know what I mean? Or from my perspective, you know, it's like if I want to speak to, you know, like millennials and Gen Z, but the business need is to go a little older, then I have to kind of skew my writing to make sure it makes sense, and vice versa. So
yeah, and I just finished seeing a marketing webinar with Louis Carr, who is actually the media salesperson for over 35 years at BET. And one of the things they talked about, you know, and is that you have to be willing to be flexible, and things are changing so much in the industry that you have to know your audience. And now you have to know your audience in a more direct. You can access them more easily, but you got to know them well. You got to know what they want. You got to be in tune with them. You kind of can't just throw a broad spectrum and hope that people just should see it. You really need to know who you're going after.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's like the world has changed also with sensitivity to things. There are certain, you know, like jokes or topics that, you know, you just can't either talk about or just like mention without really doing it. Everything is more intentional, which is a good thing. And even with speaking to Louis Carr, you know, the advertising dollars that come in, people aren't just slapping their name onto any type of content. You know? It's like Dove isn't gonna put like sponsored by Dove on like a violent, you know, episode of like
family. About Dove food.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting because before I worked at BT, I was the assistant to a director for the launching Wu-Tang American Saga for the event. And all the way down to wardrobe, like, you know, it's a period piece, so it's based in like the 80s, early 90s, and we had you know, sourced wardrobe like Tommy Hilfiger, but these brands aren't approving our characters to wear these brands in like these violent scenes.
Wow.
It goes all the way down to the specifics of that. It's really interesting.
Texas don't wear that brand.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, Tommy Hilfiger doesn't want to see, you know, our our character shoots
Right.
somebody while they're wearing the logo. So it's like a little bit.
So, with that in mind, though, do you find yourself having to, I guess, balance? Okay, we would take this content, but our advertisers say we can't, or vice versa. Or
Yeah, we
how do you
have
work with that?
our legal department is very lovely to us. They're the ones that kind of look out for that. And most you know, productions and projects have legal to kind of look out for those things and get things approved. But there are ways around it, like covering up the logo and
Yeah.
you know, like for 20s we cut an episode and you know, they're based in LA, so they have like a lot of like weed stuff in the background of the episodes, and we had a sponsor on it and they were like, yeah, we gotta blur out these bongs in the background. And yeah, so you just kind of have to get around it in that way. Yeah.
Okay. But you don't find yourself to make the content for it, I guess.
One challenge that we're always talking about, it doesn't seem like it's a challenge for you, or you may correct me, which is being the one person that looks like you in a sea of people that don't look like you. The lack of diversity in the workplace and that kind of thing. But you mentioned that you work at BET, and a lot of these minority owned, or at least it advertises or caters to that public. Do you have that challenge, or is it a diversity being a female, or is it all good?
Oh, that's a great question. In the past, I've worked mostly at predominantly white companies. I've worked at, you know, Verizon Media. I've worked at like Yahoo, Huffington Post, all these different places. And so BET, but I've also worked at Essence Magazine, which is like black, you know, period. So, BET, you know, our little hub within Viacom CBS is very diverse. It is predominantly black. Full stop.
Yes.
But you know, when you kind of go outside, which we work cross departmentally,
right.
and in other brands, like, you know, some of our shows are on Showtime sometimes, and like you know, our editing department services the entire Viacom, so our editing department is not predominantly black. And so while it is it's more diverse than some other places I've worked, there is still like a curve in the sense of it's not like 100%, but it's like it's not really going to be 100% unless you're like a startup.
Right.
And then, well, when you said the gender part, I am the only Black woman on staff as a writer.
Really?
But that's on staff? Wow.
Yeah, and on staff. We have a copywriter.
Wow.
She's a Black woman, but yeah, I am also the youngest. So yeah, so there are challenges in that, especially when Viacom CBS is like a legacy company. Yeah. So a lot of people that have worked there either have been there for like 10 plus years or like 2+ years. And I've been there for 3. So there is definitely when we collaborate, it's always like we used to do it like this. And it's like, you know, the industry is changing, and it's like, well, and I'm over here like, well, what
Let
about
me rap to you for a second about how we do things.
Yeah. So you know, merging those two worlds is really interesting, and I think that's why we also do so well, because there are the people that the more seasoned people that kind of can gut check you and being like, you know, I think that this is best, and then there are the more people that are, I guess, newer or fresher, and they're like, it's easier for us to think outside the box because we haven't, you know, been in this same, you know, for so long. It's a marriage.
That's an interesting point too, because BET started 30, 40 years ago, and now the audience is getting older, but it still need to relate to the younger people, because this is not something where it's going to age out. It's supposed to keep going and getting new viewers, you know, as time goes on. So are you able to, I guess, interject that thought that, hey, my generation doesn't do that anymore, or we don't think about that, or?
Yeah, it happens often. It happens often. I think what also helps is that we have our digital space, and our digital space speaks to the younger audience. So like BT.com, the social media websites that we have, or social media platforms that we have, are kind of like really where the young people really resonate with, like, especially if, I don't even have cable, right? I don't have cable,
right.
but obviously BT's on cable. So I know the people like me that don't have cable, we're gonna watch, our award shows or like the BET Awards on YouTube or something like that.
Right. When you want to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Or yeah, essentially, or it's like, I just want to see this performance. So it'll be online, and our digital team does a good job of like having that ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
That it kind of covers everybody. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So
yeah, go ahead. I think I know where you're going next, Ken.
Yeah.
That's what I was going.
I'm gonna flip the script because that's a whole nother. You're a DJ? Like,
yeah.
I am. I actually have playing later today for the first time.
Wow.
In person for the first time in almost like 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because.
So you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, I'm actually. I've been DJing for like 6 years now, I think.
Yeah. And how'd you get into that?
So it's funny because I have a older cousin who is a full-time DJ, and he's based out of Miami. And while I saw him, do his thing, and he's DJed for everybody. He's gone on tour, he's played in Germany, all these things. I didn't necessarily, see that for myself. And also like Caribbean parents, they kind of suggested.
I can finish this sentence for you, Fabienne. I'll take it from here. DJing is for her. All this other stuff is for her parents.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, it's so funny because with Caribbean parents, it's like, if it's something that isn't, doctor, lawyer, businessman, it's they have to see that it makes sense or that it works before they can really support. So when I started DJing, and DJing has taken me all the way to Tanzania to DJ.
Wow.
Once my mom saw that, she was like, oh, okay, so this is like a sustainable thing to do. And I've also always done it on the side of my like 9 to 5 or whatever.
Right, you don't quit your day job.
Yeah, exactly. So once she realized like I wasn't, living on the street and trying to do these DJ streams, she was more supportive about it. But yeah, so I've been DJing for 6 years, and with the pandemic, everything kind of moved virtually. And the thing I love about DJing is feeling that energy with people in front of me, and telling musical story, and like, interacting in that way. And I wasn't really getting that virtually. I mean, I still have a few clients that I do virtual events for that are fun and stuff, but it wasn't the same. So I kind of like, I thought I was falling out of love with it, honestly. But now I'm like really excited to get back. So
that is so amazing.
Do you have different audiences? I mean, young, old, or was there a particular kind of music that you?
Yeah, so I used to, when I lived in New York, I used to do this happy hour at Red Rooster, and that was kind of like I would say, like a 40 plus crowd, and I'm playing like the old school R&B and throwbacks and stuff like that. But then I've also, I get booked for like a hip hop like trap party here and there. I really love like 80s, 90s hip hop and R&B. Like that's kind of where I also love soul house. So I'm like, I need the dancers. I need, people that just want to have fun and aren't too cool. Like,
Okay, just because it's a show and we got to ask controversial questions. Do you get grief from people when you try to play an R. Kelly record? Because he has a whole dance revolution that he did.
I will not play an R. Kelly record.
There you
Don't even go there, right?
Wow.
And I've actually been known to press some other DJs that play his records in public, because I mean, I just feel, if you want to get into it, we can get into it.
Yeah, let's go.
It's very short. The difference is, and I do try to take out artists that not necessarily controversial, but are like fully like they're guilty. You know what I mean? However, I think
become judge and jury for just.
Yeah, I'm about to say, don't be on my jury. Remind me not to pick out.
Yeah, like actively, I'm consciously not gonna play the baby. But with R. Kelly, I think it is very different, where the argument doesn't exist because he used the music as a weapon against these women. And it's different. Like, it's one thing to be like, separate the artist from the artist, but when the actual music was used, then that's when I think it becomes a mute topic. Whether, you know, we can step in the name of happiness to something else. We can play background. It's not that deep. We loved it. Thank you. No, goodbye.
And so this is the beauty of diversity in all you know, pursuits, because as a man, I wouldn't necessarily think that way. I would think, yes, he's guilty. This is a great groove. Can we just all get along? But a woman is like, oh no, we're not going there. We can boogie and do other things.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and
in the lyrics.
it might also speak to your brand too, because I mean, do you even feel like, you know, that's because that's what you do, marketing, that you don't want that to be part of your brand?
Yeah, I just I would hate to play something that's triggering for somebody, you know? You know what I'm saying? So like when I hear R. Kelly's music, that's the first thing I think of. When I hear, you know, age ain't nothing but a number, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, especially now.
Worth it to me. It was a special error where in 2022, I think we can find other songs to create.
Not
the only choices.
Yeah. And I mean that from like, I've done weddings before and everything. There's other music. We're okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I love
well,
it.
circling back to the whole thought process though, where do you see, I guess, either music and also media going with your generation and beyond?
As far as like parties or like
no, I mean just in terms of like developing more opportunities for people, being able to, I guess, explore new avenues. Do you see anything changing?
Well, I think the change kind of started before the pandemic. I think that there was like definitely a shift in indie artists and like people also realizing that they don't necessarily need a label to blow up and create and get a following and stuff. And it's funny because I have a sister-in-law who has been working towards, you know, this music career for most of her life. And she was like runner up to Sarah and Making the Band. I'm talking like Diddy Making the Band. So she's been in the game for a while. She's been on American Idol. Like she's done all these things. And when she first started, you know, the dream was, you know, meet a Berry Gordy and get signed. And this label's gonna build you out and make you a star. And the music industry has completely changed. It's like they want artists
absolutely
fully packaged,
right?
They got a following, they have the stage presence, and then we're gonna put you out. You know, unless it's like you know, like a Doja Cat type of situation where it's like, okay, we're gonna put all this money behind you and back in the best features, but that's not like the case for everybody. So I do think that indie artists have a better chance at making it without having to go through like these labels or these like bad deals or anything like that. But then it also kind of like puts it on us, and I'm a music head, so it's easy for me to like find an indie artist and like be loyal to them. But for the people that aren't actively looking for music, it's harder, you know, it's harder to like,
especially because there's nowhere to buy music these days.
Exactly, you have to stream it. And even for me, like if an album comes out, I'm playing it and I don't even know what the name of the song is.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I have to like actively look. My memory isn't that good. So I'll be like, what song is this? And I'll try to play it like, oh, I heard this song and it was cool. So it's like, it's definitely different. Like from when we had like CDs and stuff like that. But it's just like, honestly, it's like a conscious effort to like, whether you're making a playlist or, you know, just keeping it to mind, like what artists love right now, or sharing.
Well, BET, I won't say started with music, but it was heavy into music when it first started. But you know, it obviously expanded. Do you see it coming back to doing some more music?
I think there is a need and an ask from people that, you know, I mean, if you go on like Clubhouse or forums, they're always like, somebody always telling BET what they need to do. And one of the things is like, bring back 106 in Park. And they did bring it back and they weren't feeling it. So I think, the ratings, you know, everything comes down to things.
Right.
So I think, yes, I hope that they do. I mean, there are some TV shows. One of them I worked on, it was like a reality TV where they put like 5 you know, R&B singers that were really hot in the 90s in a girl group, and they were trying to, it was called the Encore, which is interesting. And I think people want to see things like that, but they also just want to see music.
Right.
But it's really hard to, I think, monetize, like, okay, well, how are we going to put it out so that y'all are consuming it, and we don't just, you know, just put a random show out.
How do you, as a writer, you just describe yourself as sometimes the youngest one in the room, youngest African-American woman in the room, and you hear an idea that is just, it's the worst. How do you either try to do all you can do to make sure this thing doesn't go, or then have to talk yourself into, okay, I'm going to be a team player, and just you market something you don't believe in? How does that work?
Yeah, it's funny because when my boss hired me, he hired me as a disruptor. he was like, I know exactly who you are, and this is what I want for the team and everything. So when you do come across things, I know, right? It's a gift and a curse.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, you know, I've learned when to speak up and when to just, you know, eat my own feelings. But
Right.
I do have a great relationship, in the sense that if something feels completely, like, you know, out of touch or wrong, I do have liberty to say something. And sometimes it means that they adjust it, and sometimes it means that we totally don't do it. And then, you know, it's either a compromise or it's not. But your
words have impact. You're saying they'll change or they'll get rid of it.
To a certain extent, and it's happened before. I was actually just trying to think of an example, which I can't think of anything specific right now, but I think it was like a movie that they wanted to run, you know, during like Black History Month, and it was like, we shouldn't do this, and then
not fitting the demographic at all.
But at the same time, in a positive way, you know, we're also able to speak up and get things done that they weren't thinking about, like, you know, like running, you know, information about Kwanzaa wasn't necessarily on, you know, originally on the schedule, or, you know, when people pass, like, we do these little like remembrance moments, you know, bell hooks yesterday. So yeah, it goes both ways, like, yeah.
Well, Fabienne, merci beaucoup.
Nicely played, Miss Cannon.
Yeah. No, thank you for everything. I really do. I like your insight. I like the fact that you're coming from a different perspective. We all seem to have a little crossover, but I like coming hearing from your perspective. And I wish you much success at BET. And
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's nice talking to both of you.
Absolutely. Thank you.